So a certain party that shall remain nameless, they had I'm talking about a bad week last week. That's probably the understatement of the century, by the way. Well, you know what? Things they're not going to improve. No, things they're going to get a lot worse from here. How do I know that? Because documents like this have started dropping into our laps. This is the third witness statement of one Edward White. He was mentioned in the appeals hearing, by the way, but we had never seen what he really had to say. Well, you know what? We're going to hear it now. Now, if you find yourself asking, who exactly is this guy? Well, he is the senior partner at Edward White and Company, LLP. Look at that wonderful straight line, by the way. Knock that out of the park. And yeah, what does his firm do? Well, they represent a number of high net worth individuals, including the appellant. And they've represented the appellant since March 14th, 2016. Now, a few of you are probably like me in the appeals hearing. You're thinking, I know that name, but where do I know it from? Well, you know it from right here. You remember that $100,000 donation in the name of a certain nameless person? You know, one with a check written out for $100K and that never had a follow-up. Well, that guy's the guy that sends the money. That guy's the money man here. You can see that noted right here. Edward White of Edward White and Company. You can see his name on the check as well. So yeah, this is the person with the inside track. So hey there, do you fine folks on this fine day? Now you and we're going to look at the statement of one Mr. White in just a moment. By the way, every time I say Mr. White, I want to make a freaking Breaking Bad joke. I haven't broken down so far. Maybe I'll make it through the video. But yeah, remember this guy was thrown under the bus during the appeals hearing. You had the other side go after him saying, you know, if this guy, he's so good, why didn't he go out and why didn't he question these charities directly? I mean, he could after all. And yeah, he basically burns that narrative down. He burns it down in just a few sentences. And I like that about this statement. Oh, I like it so much. Now, to tell you just how powerful this new document is, this document allowed new evidence to be presented at an appeals hearing that we didn't think we would see new evidence at all. And that it allowed charity to be added therein. That is a huge thing, by the way. Even if you don't get a new retrial, even if you don't get an appeal hearing, this sets the record straight. It showcases how the mainstream media was complicit, and beyond that, it shows how a certain nameless party, they lied. And not only did they lied for around 4 years. So we saw item number 1. Item number 2, you could see it in that screenshot, but it's basic information. But item number 3, that's when you get into the meat of the matter. I make this statement in support of the appellant's application, obviously appellant, that would be JD, for permission to adduce fresh evidence in support of his appeal. Now we know, by the way, that representatives for NGN, that would be the Sun and Dan Wooten, and also representatives for that certain nameless person, they didn't think you would get to present new evidence. In fact, there's a court transcript talking about Adam Waldman and some of the stuff he'd been saying online. And representatives for that nameless person, they were saying, you know what, charity, that's pretty much done. You can't add in this new information because this new information, it didn't make it into trial. Well, guess what? Yeah, it was powerful enough that it did. Sorry about your luck. So sorry. Now, he goes on to tell you, I don't know everything about what's going to happen in this appeal. I don't know the details to it, but I do, however, understand that the appellant seeks permission to adduce new evidence that that nameless person did not donate to charity the $7 million paid to her as part of her divorce settlement from JD. Instead, the only payments that I know of, remember, he would know, by the way, because he is the money man, of which were made to the ACLU, or the American Civil Liberties Union, and the CHLA, or the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, were made by me on behalf of the appellant for the respondent. So I made these on behalf of JD for that nameless party. These payments were $100,000 to each of these charities. However, I have been told by Ms. Rich that there is a document which appears to show that that nameless party donated a further $350,000 in September 2016. So skipping to my evidence given during the trial of the appellant's claim, I'm skipping number 4 basically because it just mentions a bunch of trial documents. Number 5, on the 13th of July 2020, I gave oral evidence at the trial of JD claim in London. While being questioned by the respondent's counsel, I was asked about my knowledge of that nameless party's agreement to donate $7 million divorce settlement to two charities, the CHLA and the ACLU. I've been aware of that nameless party's multiple statements regarding her commitment to make the donation since 2016, when I was involved in the negotiations of the settlement of JD and that nameless party's divorce. Number 6, during the trial, I was asked by the respondent's counsel whether I had made, quote, inquiries to check whether she indeed made donations to these particular charities. They tell you where they note that in the transcript. I said that, quote, on occasion, I asked the question, were the contributions made, and I never received a response. I was not asked at the time by the respondent's counsel to explain who I asked about these contributions. To clarify, the persons I asked about these contributions were JD's attorneys, but they had no information on that point at that time. Now, this is an important thing to note, too. This was after the installments to that nameless person had been paid. So they had $7 million in their hands, but they weren't paying it out. I mean, you see the distinction there. I asked the question occasionally thereafter in conversations with JD's attorneys because I had my suspicions about that nameless party's credibility, but I am not aware that the evidence to the contrary was forthcoming until after the judgment in question. Number 7, during my cross-examination, I was also asked whether I made, quote-unquote, the inquiry to the charities themselves. I responded no, but I was not asked by the respondents to explain why not. To confirm, I did not ask the charities whether that nameless party had made the donations because to do so would have been professionally inappropriate. Now, that's an important note to say, too. Why? Because the defense in the hearing said that this guy, he should have made those inquiries, but he shouldn't have, because again, that's grossly inappropriate. I would not call up a charity to ask them about donations by another person. Even if I had inquired, I am confident that they would not have provided me with that information, as that information is likely to be treated as confidential. Like I said, that's an important statement too. Now, this part here, too, this tears a hole in another strategy by the defense, saying he should have turned over that letter from the CHLA, you know, the one that was talking about 2019. Quote, I have been shown a letter from the CHLA addressed to me, dated June 14, 2019. He says, in this context, I can confirm paragraph 34 of Mrs. Ridge's 5th statement in 14th of January 2021 is correct. Had I seen the letter in June 2019, I would, for obvious reasons, have immediately provided it to JD and his attorney. Now, like I was saying earlier, if you think about the ways that the other side, they try to negate everything that was being presented, well, this knocks out yet another one. And none of these were strong to begin with. There were 6 reasons that they said that charity shouldn't come up. The first one, they said, it was by means of subpoena. Basically, both of those charities, they should have been hit up, but they should have been hit up earlier. The reason they weren't, by the way, is because there was no statement about charity presented by that nameless party until a specific date. When that date came up, they started after this information right away, and that nameless party, they did everything they could to block this from coming out. Basically, they delayed, and it worked, and that's one of the reasons for the appeal. Thirdly, they say perhaps the most obvious thing was they should have asked that nameless person on cross-examination about this topic. You know, because they lied in a document, but they wouldn't have lied on stand. That's insane when you think about it. Number 4, they shot down. That's the one shot down in here about Mr. White. Fifthly, they were saying they should have sought documents related to payments in this trial. And sixthly, they should have sought them in the other trial. And again, they should have figured this out much, much sooner. When you look at that, what you see is a desperate narrative. I can't say that desperate narrative, it won't work, but this stuff, it sets the record straight in a way that cannot be ignored. This creates a bad, bad day for somebody, a bad, bad day for their reputation, because they're never going to be able to move away from this. They basically defrauded 2 organizations. One organization, it involves charity for children. The other organization, it was making payments on behalf of people that had been impacted by DV. Now, if you think about that, and you think about this person and what they were saying, yeah, that doesn't make you look good at all. Let me know what you think, though. Like I said, appreciate you there, too. Want to help the channel out? There are links in the description. And you being here, that matters. So I want to end by saying thank you. I do appreciate you, and we will see you soon.